So, greetings, everybody. We're happy to be here at Coin Agenda Caribbean. I'm James Haft. I'm the chairman and founder of DLTX. We're the first publicly listed Web 3.0 company. Be happy to talk to you about it in the future. We're listed in Norway for reasons which might be very familiar to Brad. I'm sitting here with Brad Garlinghouse, who's the CEO of Ripple. We're really honored to have you. Thank you so much for being here and coming.
Thrilled to be here, thrilled to be talking to you, and my first visit ever to Puerto Rico, and so far it's been phenomenal. Thank you, Molly.
Well, welcome. This is my first visit in 40 years, because my parents used to drag me along to the El San Juan.
Insert age joke, 40 years, I mean, how's that possible?
No, yeah. So 1962, I'll take the mystery out. Tell us a little bit about yourself first. I always think it's interesting to tell the personal story before you get into the business.
So I grew up in Kansas and went to the University of Kansas. That died. Went to the University of Kansas. I'm a proud Jayhawk. My dad came home at a young age with a TRS-80. If people know what a TRS-80 was, you've been in tech for a long time. There's a few hands out there, but that was old school. And so I started coding at a young age and doing some basic coding. And when I graduated from business school in '97, in the birth of the internet, and moved to Silicon Valley, and been doing internet tech stuff for the last 24 years in Silicon Valley.
Age alert.
Yeah, exactly. But no, it's been an incredible ride. Maybe we can talk about crypto as we go here, but I've always been intrigued by the leading edge, often the bleeding edge, and kind of enamored with what could be if X, Y, and Z. And certainly crypto is an example of that, where you've heard a bunch of people on stage today talking about how the potential benefits, and already we're manifesting some of them. But as we look out a little further, I think it's a pretty exciting future.
No, I know the bleeding edge is interesting. I formed my company in 1996 after doing emerging markets investment banking. And I did it because I thought the next emerging market was the digitization of information and the impact it was going to have on humanity and on businesses and society. And everyone said to me, go back to investment banking, that's not a business. Right? And now when I describe it, everyone says, well, it's every business, right? So how did you make the leap? How did you first get the idea and to get involved?
Well, actually, I was at a conference in 2012 called Dialogue. Actually, any dialoguers here? Just curiously, there's one. Oh yeah, Dan Moorhead. You don't count. There's a conference put on by a guy named Peter Thiel and Orrin Hoffman, and they've been doing this for 10, 15 years. And there was a session circa 2012 where they do all these kind of breakout sessions on just emerging technologies and kind of contrarian views and the non-obvious second order and third order effects of changes that are happening. And there's a session on crypto and frankly, it was Bitcoin, not crypto. And I came away and bought a little bit of Bitcoin, just kind of okay, this is interesting, I have no idea what's going to happen. And I will admit, though, one of my biggest reservations about Bitcoin circa 2012 was this ethos that, hey, we're going to circumvent the banking system or we're going to circumvent regulations. I always just thought, that's not, in my opinion, when you talk about the 99% economy, not the 1% of kind of maybe shady stuff on the side. If you really want to do that, it's not going to be, from fresh cloth. It's going to be, how do you integrate with regulation, with banks? And so by total randomness, about 2 years later, I had left my previous company and was actually Uber driving, and I got a call from a recruiter, and they asked me if I'd heard of Ripple. I lied and said yes. But remind me what they do. And so they explained to me that they were, trying to use crypto to change how payments work. And frankly, I said, look, I'm not your guy. I gave him some names from people at PayPal and Visa, because I don't come from payments. My background is more on the, frankly, consumer media kind of stuff on the internet side. And they made fun of me because I was an Uber driver, and why didn't I actually just go meet Chris Larson, one of the co-founders of the company? And so Chris and I met, and the rest is history, as they say.
I love those stories, right? So before we get into some more meaty stuff, just explain, because I'm in the industry, I've been doing just crypto for 2015. What is Ripple and what is XRP?
So first of all, I appreciate you asking the question that way. You know, a lot of people still conflate Ripple and XRP. Ripple is a company of which I'm the CEO. XRP is an open source technology that lots of people participate in. Ripple cares a lot about the XRP ecosystem, but there are a lot of people that do. Ripple, the way I would describe it is simply we are the leading enterprise blockchain company, period, full stop. Our viewpoint, my viewpoint is there are lots of use cases for blockchain technologies in the enterprise. Knowing how to sell into, knowing how to engage from a customer success point of view and get enterprises using blockchain technologies to improve the efficiency of lots of different kinds of transactions. We're just at the beginning of that journey. Ripple started with cross-border payments and selling into financial institutions. We now have hundreds of financial institutions. We've done millions and millions of transactions, billions and billions of dollars. But I do view it as an enterprise blockchain company as opposed to just payments. I was talking with a gentleman named Jose back here in the back about the ecosystem that Ripple's really creating around other enterprise use cases. And there's a lot going on. And I think Ripple is in a position that I compare to Amazon circa 1997, where Amazon at those ages, which you and I will remember, it wasn't Amazon, it was Amazon Books. The name of the company was Amazon Books. And it competed with Borders and Barnes & Noble. Today, obviously, it does lots of things. I think of Ripple, our first vertical, the books is to cross-border payments for Ripple.
And for XRP, how would you
Sorry.
describe it?
Look, I mean, for me, we use XRP not just because we own a lot of it. We also use XRP because from a payments point of view, it's extremely fast. A transaction settles in 3 to 4 seconds. It's extremely inexpensive. You're talking about 1/1000th of a penny. And it scales very well. And so if you're talking about $120 trillion of cross-border payments, a lot of the different digital assets out there, it would be hard to use them for that use case. One of the things I'm sure we'll talk about here, I'm a big believer that all boats rise. It has been, I think, incredibly refreshing in my judgment to see how some of what I'll just describe as the historical Bitcoin maximalism is kind of receding because people see, look, there's going to be lots of winners in different use cases for different technologies, and that's great. And the idea that we have to tear one project down to make another project successful, I think is, thankfully headed in the rearview mirror.
I think that's the old guard. The idea that you need to compete to take away to win. The idea of I see the crypto world as being more of one of abundance than exclusion, and scarcity. My partner is David Johnston. He's born dyed in the wool decentralist. Johnston's law is everything that can be decentralized will be decentralized. And he likes to point out that 19 of the top 20 protocols are outside the United States right now. And I think you know the other one.
Yeah, hi.
Exactly. So, what do you think about that?
Look, I introduced myself earlier. I'm a kid from Kansas who, wears red, white, and blue on the 4th of July. The United States, look, I'm sure this is probably being streamed and recorded, but I'll do something I rarely do.
Disclaimer.
I rarely do this when I'm being recorded. The United States is fucked. It's just like, I see what is happening, and it makes me sad. Because, in 1996, the United States government passed some laws and regulations that allowed investors and allowed entrepreneurs to build technology and build companies in the internet as we know it, the internet of information, that changed really from a geopolitical way, the United States as the center of the internet as we know it. That has had major impact on society. And the United States did things strategically that allowed that to grow and foster. Al Gore invented the internet, we've all heard it. Look, I think we're all here because we probably believe there is a new, whatever you want to call it, Web3, lots of people call it different things. We all believe. But the United States is not just making it hard from a lack of clarity, they're actually being punitive and driving people like, look, why would you want to start, and I've said this to entrepreneurs that frankly some of them Ripple invests in, why would you want to start a crypto company here in the United States? I would say don't do it. You have clear regulatory frameworks in the UK, in Switzerland, in Japan, in Singapore. By the way, I'm not talking about, the Isle of Man and, I'm sorry if I'm insulting someone. These are G20 markets that have clear regulatory frameworks. And the narrative that happens in Washington, D.C. right now is crypto is the Wild West. Like, Ripple's a regulated company. Forget the SEC lawsuit. We were regulated before then. It's just the idea that it's the Wild West it's just not true. And I think that narrative, actually, I think today there's congressional hearings going on, probably right now as we speak. There's CEOs of various crypto companies in front of Congress with questions that you just have a lot of people that don't understand. And going back to your core question here, the fact that 19 of 20 of the leading tokens protocols are non-US based is sad. Now, I would also point out just loosely that XRP is not US based, and Ripple is a US based company. XRP is a decentralized open source technology with contributors from scores of countries around the world. And so your question assumes that it's like, well, that's US. Like, well, sort of.
I accept that. Thank you. A lot of, I sit on the edge of the same knife that you sit on in terms of thinking about these things. I'm a proud American. I've always been doing emerging markets investment banking where I was bringing access to our capital market and democracy and clarity and contract-based relationships and laws, which, as I think we're doing our best to erode, unfortunately. A lot of people say if we just had more regulation, if we just had more clarity, that mass adoption would happen faster, that larger corporations and business flows would come online, and that it would benefit. Is that your view?
Well, look, let me put some data behind that. The United States Securities Exchange Commission filed a lawsuit against Ripple on December 22nd last year, so almost 1 year ago. Since that time, Ripple has had a heroic 2021. Growth has been extremely strong in terms of our primary metric of success is payment transactions. And we're still growing more than 100% year on year, despite the fact we have sold 0 new contracts in the United States in the last year. We've lost customers in the United States. So, but my view is that as long as the US, XRP basically doesn't trade in the United States. Ripple, we sell enterprise blockchain despite all the things we do to be regulatorily, compliant. US companies are like, look, we're going to wait. We're going to wait and see what happens. Now, the good news is when we go and talk to banks and financial institutions around the world, they don't care. I was in the Middle East a few weeks ago, certainly in the UK, a couple, those customers, they're just, hey, does it add value? Is it decreasing my cost? Is it improving the product experience for my customers? They are happy people, and they are signing up, and we've signed scores of contracts this year, 2021. And it's been a great year, but 0 contracts in the United States.
Interesting. All right, we're going to play word association game. I'm going to say acronyms and that people are banding around today. I want to hear what your thoughts are. NFT.
Underhyped. Underhyped.
Okay, I like that. Can we expand on that?
Sure. Look, we're clearly in that pre-Cambrian hype cycle, and there's definitely a lot of hype right now. I think people underestimate how NFTs will impact lots. Right now, people like to talk about them in the kind of art, music. I think that the tokenization, NFT is just a tokenization of lots of assets. I think that the tokenization of lots of assets, it's not that we're not in the first inning. We're like, in Little League on the T-ball, and I think NFTs are definitely here to stay and will have a bigger and bigger impact in lots of different parts of the financial system.
So kind of like Amari's Law here.
Yes.
Okay. And then, let's see. How about DAO?
It's a joke.
Because?
James and I were talking about DAOs a little bit before we got up here. I am super a skeptic, cynic about DAOs. Look, do I think a DAO can exist in a metaverse, purely digital environment? Sure, fine. At some point, we talked about, there's a DAO, some of you may be involved in even, trying to buy a building in Miami. How many people here have bought a piece of real estate in the United States? At some point, somebody came to you during that process and they said, give me a copy of your passport. What's your social security number? There are laws and regulations about owning. We can argue about the laws, but the laws are there. And the laws require all kinds of KYC, AML kind of verifications. And so if an anonymous group of people is buying a building in Miami, never gonna happen. So my point around DAOs is, okay, in a purely digital, all digital world, okay, I get it. Well, even then, I'm like, how do decisions get made? And people are like, well, we have a mayor of this. And I'm like, well, a mayor is just another word for a CEO. So I think DAOs are just, if you take it literally, I think the correct acronym is Decentralized Autonomous Organizations. Are they really decentralized autonomous organizations when there's a mayor? I don't know. I'm not a believer.
So my counterpoint was those are today's jurisdictions and the way that things work today. And I do think that there'll be physical jurisdictions that go towards a blockchain concept and where private keys are the ownership. And also we'll get to the next one-word association, metaverses.
I mean, James has kind of just set me up here because he knows what I think. So I also think metaverse is overhyped. We've all seen the Mark Zuckerberg video and the guy from Iceland who then did the video right after, which was genius. If you didn't watch it, you should watch it. James and I also bonded a little bit because we both read a book called Snow Crash by Neil Stephenson in about 1995 or 1996. If you haven't read the book, it's an amazing book. You should go read the book. In 1995, 1996, when I read Snow Crash, the kind of common wisdom was, this idea at the time, it wasn't called metaverse, but the idea of the metaverse was it was 5 years away, maybe 10 years away. To me, the metaverse idea is a constantly rolling 5 to 10 years away, and it's still 5 to 10 years away, and I think in 5 or 10 years, it's still gonna be another 5 to 10 years away. I think that you will find examples of how information, this isn't to say that, digitally enhanced virtual realities are going to exist, and they exist today. And they will continue to exist, and they'll probably get more interesting.
Just in 2002.
Yeah. So look, I'm not saying that this isn't real technology. I'm saying the metaverse, as some people envision, I just think is, we like to be in person.
And what advice, there's a lot of people in the room here who want to do their own token, that want to, the world has changed. I have 2 kids, they're 20 and 24, and they're starting their own businesses. They don't believe they're going to have a job forever. I joined Bear Stearns when I was, 22 years old, and I thought that was my job forever, and they were disappointed that I left. I didn't want to become chairman someday. I looked around, I didn't like what I saw, right? And the kids, I think, are smarter than that now, right? I think that they see that the only way to be successful really is to support yourself and, to be your own business, to be your own brand. So what advice do you have for kids that are coming up now?
Well, I'm going to change the question a little bit. What advice I have for anybody who's thinking about what's next? A very good friend of mine named Chad, I'm trying to convert into being a crypto guy. I brought him here. So don't scare him away. He's back there in the back. But here's a guy, as an example, who has spent most of his career in traditional finance, almost 20 years at Waddell & Reed, and managed billions of dollars in terms of assets under management. And frankly this morning, having breakfast, what I said is look, the traditional finance that he has lived in is a contracting it's not that assets under management are going away, it's that the fees, the margin profile, and maybe actually the way it's been managed is contracting. And so you can either push that boulder up the hill, or you can get behind a boulder going down the hill. And that is called this industry that, when probably you and I got involved might have been $20 billion and now is over $2 trillion. And I would argue on the way to 20 trillion, and that's a massive amount of value creation. And so the advice I give people, not just my friend Chad, is look, get into an industry that's going to change the world over the next 10 or 20 years. When I got involved in the internet, as we think of the internet today, it was in 1995. And, you know, I felt like that's a good bet about where I'm going to spend the next 20 years. You know, shifting to crypto was a strategic bet about I mean, it has exceeded my expectations, I will say that. But it was a bet about where the world's going. The only other one I'll throw out there I know nothing about, somebody here will be smarter about than me, is genomics. I think what's going on in that industry is just totally fascinating. If I were a kid coming out of school with any knowledge of that industry over the next 20 years, I think it's a great spot to be.
Very interesting. Do you mind if we open to questions?
Fire away.
Anyone have a question out there? How could you not?
Somebody has to have a question. No. We are not a room of shrinking violets. We have questions.
Hey, Alex.
Hi there. Thanks. I run an exchange that's CoinField, which is a big XRP exchange. So thank you for your business and helping us make money. So where do you see Ripple having an advantage in the future? Are you going to create new protocols? Are you going to create new software? Are you going to build a full stack? Are you going to have adjacencies? Are you going to do acquisitions? Like, what's your big strategic vision so we can support it?
Yeah, so, I mean, the answer to your question, the first couple of things, less so, meaning, you know, we're not going to go try to create a new token. I look at the XRP ledger and what I'll call the magic of the XRP ledger and its efficiency and its scalability as the more things we can use to solve enterprise vertical applications, starting with cross-border payments, there's certainly a whole lot of other industries. And we do have internally the conversation, okay, here's an interesting vertical. Do we want to build something organically? And we've done some things we've talked publicly about in lending. Or do we want to go buy something? And, you know, look, I don't mind sharing. Ripple is an incredibly strong balance sheet. We've got over $1 billion of cash. We have, I don't know the price of XRP today, but, you know, tens of billions of dollars of XRP. And certainly we do think about acquisitions as a way to enter other verticals. But as I said to James at the beginning, you know, first and foremost, I think about enterprise blockchain opportunities. I think there's lots of ways you could use the XRP ledger for consumer-based applications. That's not what we are focused on. There are other interesting companies in the XRP ecosystem doing really cool stuff in the consumer space. That's just not where Ripple's focused.
Yeah, I'm really intrigued by you saying NFTs are underhyped. I'm curious what excites you about the utilization of NFTs as it relates to crowdfunding projects that better our world?
Well, I don't know about the crowdfunding piece as much, but when I talk about, again, I know it's probably most people are like, wow, he thinks it's underhyped. You know, there's a lot of hype in NFTs. I just think that there is real utility. And you know, the word I think about when I talk about crypto broadly is I was talking to this gentleman, Jose, in the back, and he asked me, like, what's my insight? Like, if there is utility, if you're solving a real problem, then people are going to use it, they're going to adopt it, it's going to drive liquidity. There's a whole bunch of things going on in crypto where I don't get the utility. Like, I don't get it. Now, that doesn't mean that there's not utility, it just means maybe I'm not smart enough to figure it out. But when I think about the NFT under hype point is I think there's a lot of utility in the tokenization of assets. Again, using real estate, because we were talking about the Miami thing that is never going to happen. If again, going
Just
back,
watch me. It will.
It will? All right. Prove me wrong. Nothing make me happier than that. All right. So, a vertical NFT that I think is interesting, I happen to be in the process of selling an apartment. I mean, the fees, the friction of selling an apartment, it is a freaking joke. And if you could effectively make an apartment an NFT, maybe we wouldn't use that same nomenclature. And think about how much efficiency you could drive into the real estate market. There is one interesting company I know called Proppy doing some interesting stuff around this. I don't know the company well, so I'm not going to, opine.
Risemarkets.io.
There you go, risemarkets.io.
Been there, done that, doing it.
All right.
Hi, my name is Rika Kurdayan. I do regulatory and go-to-market strategy for protocol sponsors. And if I may add another acronym to this wonderful discussion, it's DeFi.
Confused.
Because
I thought it was just one word. I could just move on. Look, DeFi, I think, means different things to different people. Going back to my not mythical friend Chad, we were talking about DeFi again this morning, and there's things driving yield in DeFi that I'm like, wait a minute, that does not pass my sniff test of how is that possible? And I worry a little bit about things that aren't sustainable over a long arc of time. I don't necessarily think are good for the industry overall. So I'm confused by some of the DeFi stuff because I don't understand how you can yield rates that are way above any kind of normal market and not be taking a lot more risk.
It's magical internet
so
money.
maybe the answer was not sustainable as opposed to confused.
Well, yeah, but I'm saying confused because maybe it is sustainable and I just don't get it. And I need to be educated. I'm okay with that possibility
Because
too.
I think of things in fractals. You're talking about real estate. Finance is the same way. The rich get the yields. They have people serving them, figuring things out. The middle class and below, they try and get return on their money and get something besides their daily wage. It's very hard to figure out how to do it.
I agree with that. Yeah.
All right, thank you so much. This was amazing.
Lovely to be here. Thank you for the good questions. I'll answer that question in the back. But later, yeah.
Thank you.